In Michigan on Christmas Eve 2019, a 25-year-old man named Kevin Bacon disappeared. He had went on a Grindr date, though it did not go as planned. What his date did to him that night was truly disgusting and shocking. Michelle Myers, Kevin Bacon's close friend and roommate, was the last person to see Kevin that night. According to her, he told her around 5 in the evening that he was meeting a man he met on Grindr. An hour later, he texted her saying he was going to be out for a while and wasn't sure when he would be back, but that he was having a great time. Kevin's father, Carl Bacon, said Kevin was supposed to come for breakfast around 9 a.m. on Christmas Day, but he never showed up. Carl said he was worried and called police around 5 p.m. that evening. With police, Kevin's dad found his son's car in a plaza parking lot near Family Dollar. In the car were Kevin's phone and wallet. The next day, the police found Kevin's clothes in a bag in the back seat of the car. The only thing missing were his car keys. His family quickly reported him missing and organized a search party to find him 2 days after he went missing. Blood was found on a nearby street and the area was searched, though nothing else was found. The search for Kevin continued. A few days later, he was found in a basement, his body mutilated, hanging from the ceiling. 50-year-old Mark Lanunsky was later charged with this crime. A month before prosecutors say Mark hurt Kevin, police responded to his house after a neighbor called 911 to report seeing a man run outside wearing only a leather skirt and being chased by another man. The young man told police he was chained up in Mark's basement. He said he had become frightened and fled from the house. The police said everything that happened in the house was consensual and no one wanted to report or file a criminal complaint. The crime was not detected and there was nothing we could do as law enforcement agencies. The young man got dressed, returning the $300 leather kilt to Mark, informing the prosecutor that he did not want to file a criminal complaint and that he was not seeking criminal charges. The case was quickly resolved. Later, Mark was arrested for the incident, but released the next day. 2 weeks after he was released, Kevin Bacon went missing. Kevin was found December 28th. Police arrested the owner of the home Kevin was found in, Mark, charging him with taking the life of Kevin Bacon. Police did not realize additional details at the time, such as how they found Kevin, how he lost his life, or his connection to the suspect. When asked in court if his name was Mark Ladonsky, he said that was not his name. His name was Edgar Thomas Hill, and that Mark Ladonsky was his nephew. Court documents reveal that Mark has a long-term mental illness, which he had stopped taking his medication for 4 months prior. His ex-wife filed an application to suspend custody of his child, saying he was diagnosed with major depression, paranoid schizophrenia, and personality disorders. In 2012, less than 2 weeks later, transcripts were released revealing gruesome details of the crime. Officers interviewed Mark on the morning of December 28th. He let them in and searched his house. He confessed to the crime, saying he did it by stabbing him in the back and then further admitting to the type of rope around his ankles and hanging him from the ceiling, using a knife to cut his private area and then eating them. Funeral services were held for Kevin January 3rd with a candlelight vigil later that evening. Grindr released a statement saying, "We at Grindr are heartbroken to hear about this terrible tragedy, and we share our condolences with Bacon's family and friends," reads the statement released by a spokesperson for Grindr. While for privacy reasons we do not offer public comment on individual user accounts, we remain fully committed to working with law enforcement in the event of any investigation. A Bakersfield man who gouged out his 4-year-old son's eye in a brutal attack that drew worldwide attention pleaded guilty in 2009 to all charges. 36-year-old Angelo Mendoza was assigned evaluation from 2 psychiatrists after requiring a test of whether he was guilty of all charges against him and whether he was insane at the time of the crimes. The question of his sanity was left for trial based on reports from psychiatrists. The judge found him not guilty. However, due to the seriousness of the crimes he is accused of, Angelo risks spending the rest of his life in psychiatric center. Generally, a person must be healthy before being admitted to an outpatient clinic, and to be completely released from imprisonment, a person must be considered no longer insane or a danger to himself or others, which would require a lot of questioning and evidence. Angelo's attorney said he would likely spend the rest of his life in a mental institution, saying, "I think it's the right result. I have no doubt about it." Angelo told officers he had stopped taking prescription medication before the attack on his son, telling police he was restless and seeing things that weren't there. An hour and a half before the attack, he called police to complain about a disturbance he was having with the boy's mother. The mother left before police arrived. Angelo and the child were unharmed when the police left the residence. Angelo bit both of Angelo Mendoza Jr.'s eyes, leaving him blind. He then rolled his wheelchair into the backyard of a vacant home. The father was in a wheelchair, apparently, and cut off his own legs with an axe and ceramic tile. He told police he had been attacked by the Mexican mafia, but a neighbor saw him injure himself. He used a wheelchair because he was stabbed in the back 4 years earlier. Angelo Jr. told authorities, "My daddy ate my eyes." When they came to the scene, the child's right eye later healed in foster care. 7 months after the attack, he started living with his aunt. People in many countries offered to help Angelo Jr. when the word of the incident spread. 3 months after the attack, the Bakersfield Christian Motorcycle Group had raised more than $24,000 for the boy. Angelo was charged with mayhem, torture, child cruelty, and inflicting injury to a child. He was found not guilty for reason of insanity. Between September and November 2003 in South Korea, Yoo Young-chul took the lives of several wealthy elderly people by breaking into their homes and hitting them with a hammer. To cover his tracks, Yoo turned to the criminal scenes into a robbery murder. However, the money was not taken, which confused police. As the investigation intensified, Yoo began targeting female masseuses. In January 2004, he was briefly arrested for petty theft, but was released 2 days later. Beginning in March 2004, he invited prostitutes to his apartment. His victims were dismembered and mutilated to avoid identification. They were buried in the mountains surrounding the city. Police found 11 bodies after Yoo's arrest. During initial interrogations, he admitted to taking the lives of 19 people, later confessing to another, that of a 44-year-old male street vendor, then later confessed to taking the lives of 26 people on July 19, 2004. Although he gave no details, the list of alleged victims included several individuals who did not fit his previous pattern of wealthy retirees or a massage therapist. Friends of 2 victims whose bodies were found claimed that they did not practice massage therapy, suggesting that Yoo may have had other unreported victims. Although the rainy Thursday criminal was active at the time, beginning in April 2004, stabbing several women late at night in the city, police were unable to link Yoo to those crimes, meaning the city of Seoul had 2 criminals taking women's lives at the time. Several days later, Yoo also confessed to the passing of a young woman who worked at a clothing store. After suspecting her of being a prostitute, he approached the young woman for questioning, posing as a police officer. About a month after his arrest, he admitted to eating the flesh of his victims. Although there was no evidence, he raised suspicions by calling a massage parlor where several employees had recently disappeared after similar calls. The owner of the massage parlor, accompanied by several employees and a police officer, went to the agreed meeting place where he was arrested. Another police officer handcuffed Yoo after the massage parlor employees detained him. While in custody, he faked an epileptic seizure and fled from police after his restraints were loosened. However, he was arrested again 12 hours later. He attempted the same thing after being arrested for forcing himself onto a woman 2 years earlier. The mother of the victim rushed at you with an umbrella. When he was brought to the prosecutor's office, screaming that her daughter would still be alive if police captured him earlier, a policeman kicked the mother in the chest to subdue her, claiming that his hands were occupied in holding you. Based on the content of his apartment searched after his arrest, there was some speculation that he patterned his crimes after several movies, including Public Enemy, Very Bad Things, and Normal Life. He later confessed to being inspired by criminal John DeYoung, who had taken the lives of 9 wealthy people in Busan from 1990 to 2000. Prosecutors stated that he targeted wealthy elderly people out of hospitality that originated from childhood poverty, and targeted women as he had resentment that stemmed from a lover who betrayed him, and he targeted women with similar jobs as his previous lover in retaliation. He also told police he targeted a woman because he hated them. A psychiatrist who assessed Yu concluded that he was not mentally ill, but exhibited unusual signs associated with antisocial personality disorder, whereby a person creates their own belief system based on distrust of moral and social norms. Police admitted they had little physical evidence linking Yu to the crimes. When he first appeared in court, he refused to defend himself, declaring his intention to boycott the remainder of the trial and apologizing to the victims. He boasted that he had no intention of stopping. When he was forced to return to court 2 weeks later, he lunged at 3 judges and recanted his confessions for one crime, specifically the crime against the woman whose mother attacked him. He refused to appear at the next court session after attempting to no longer be alive the night before. He again disrupted a hearing 3 weeks later when he attacked a young spectator who had cursed him, which ended with him signing a statement that he would not cause further commotion. Prosecutors requested the death penalty, which Yu thanked them for, and he was sentenced to not live anymore for 20 counts of taking someone's life. His case, which appalled South Koreans, has fueled the debate on capital punishment in South Korea. Although the death penalty is still permissible under law, it has not been carried out since 1997. It appeared that the death penalty might have been in the works to be abolished before Yu's arrest. But support for the death penalty has grown since his crimes became known. The court said to him, taking the lives of up to 20 people are unprecedented in the nation and a very serious crime. The death penalty is inevitable for causing the immense pain you have caused to the families involved and to a society as a whole. He has not been executed yet and remains alive in prison. In 1987, London police were called when Peter Bryan tried to throw another resident from his 6th floor window. The victim said the attack was unprovoked. Police took no action against Bryan for this. 7 years later, he was sent to a hospital after confessing to taking the life of 21-year-old saleswoman Nisha Sheth, who was beaten with a hammer in the year before. After spending 7 years in the hospital, therapy staff believed he had made significant progress in his behavior, attitude, maturity, relationships, anger, and outlook. Peter transferred to a different health center after about a 6-month trial. He was released to the care of a psychiatric and social worker after making an application. The next year, he was moved to a London inn where he was allowed to come and go as he pleased. The next year, psychiatrists noted that his mental condition continued to improve and discussed plans to move to a more independent housing. Another year later, social workers requested that Peter be transferred to low support instead. He was taken to an open psychiatric unit for public safety after it was alleged he harmed a 16-year-old girl. A month later, Bryan took the life of his friend Brian Cherry just a few hours after being released from a mental health unit. The victim was reportedly dismembered, and police found a pan on the stove containing his brain tissue. Peter was taken to a hospital after his court appearance following this crime. 2 months later, Peter took the life of fellow patient Richard Loudwell. Peter said he would have eaten Richard's flesh if he hadn't been bothered. An investigation 6 years later concluded that Peter was not properly monitored or adequately evaluated by hospital staff. Peter pleaded guilty to lesser charges. The police said, "You took lives on these last 2 occasions because it gave you a thrill and a feeling of power when you ate flesh." Peter was sentenced to life incarcerated. The next year, the lifetime sentence was overturned, but the judge said it was unlikely Peter, who was mentally ill, would ever be released. The sentences were changed to a minimum of 15 years, and he was taken to the Broadmoor Hospital for treatment. South Korea has seized thousands of smuggled capsules filled with powdered flesh of fetuses, which some believe can cure illnesses. The capsules were made in northeastern China from fetuses whose bodies were cut into small pieces and dried on the stove before being turned into powder. Custom officials declined to say where the children came from or who made the capsules, citing potential diplomatic friction with Beijing. Chinese authorities last year ordered an investigation into the production of substances made from fetuses or newborns. Customs uncovered 35 smuggling operations since August involving 17,000 capsules disguised as stamina boosters, believed by some to be a cure-all for diseases. However, human flesh capsules contain bacteria and other harmful ingredients. The smugglers told custom officers that they had thought the capsules were ordinary stamina boosters and did not know the ingredients or the manufacturing process. These Chinese people now living in Korea intended to use the capsules themselves or share them with other Korean Chinese. A customs official said they were transported in packages or sent by international mail. The capsules were all confiscated, but no one was punished because the amount was considered small and not intended for sale. China's National Food and Drug Administration and its Ministry of Health did not immediately respond to questions. Chinese media identify northeastern China, particularly Jilin province, which borders North Korea, as the source of such products. The Jilin Food and Drug Administration is responsible for investigating the trade of such residues. Calls to the agency and the Jilin Communist Party Information Office were not returned. South Korea's customs agencies launched an investigation after receiving a tip a year ago. No illnesses have been reporting from consuming the capsules. In Pakistan, Mohammed Arif Ali, who previously confessed to cannibalism, was arrested after neighbors reported the smell of rotting meat coming from his house. According to the police, a child's severed head was taken out of his house. Arif Ali and his brother Mohammed Farman Ali were sentenced to 2 years in prison for stealing the body of his wife from her grave in 2011. They later admitted that they had chopped off her lower limbs and turned them into meat curry. They were later convicted under the Desecration of Graves Act, as Pakistan has no law related to cannibalism. Their sentences ended in May 2013. Their release from prison sparked public protests. Since then, the brothers have kept a low profile. A year after being released, police raided the Ali brothers' apartment after receiving reports of a smell. The police reported, "We have found the severed head of a small child about 2 or 3 years old. They probably exhumed his body from his grave, but the identity of the child and the cemetery where the body may have been stolen from are not clear." He said that Arif Ali, who had been in the house, was arrested while police were still looking for Farman Ali. During initial questioning, Arif admitted that they cut the body and cooked it, but blames everything on his older brother and denies helping him or eating the curry. Maou Sagiyama, an artist from Tokyo, cooked, seasoned, and served his genitals to 5 diners at a party in Japan in 2012. He got a lot of attention with his tweet, Please, we treat. I am offering my male genitals, full penis, testes, and scrotums as a meal for 100,000 yen. Will prepare and cook as the buyer requests at his chosen location. 100,000 yen is only about 600 US dollars. Just days after Mao's 22nd birthday, the artist performed selective genital mutilation, dividing the severed penile shaft, testicles, and scrotal skin among 5 people and decorating it with button mushrooms and Italian parsley. 5 of the 6 diners who signed up for the party sat down to eat. The 6th person was a no-show. The next day, the organizer posted a blog, which has since been deleted, containing photos of the event. Photos show dozens of people attending the event to see the rare treat. Additional diners were treated to crocodile-based dishes while he prepared an exclusive meal. The story went viral in Japan. Some showed even more interest while others complained. But the Japanese authorities deemed the party legal because the country has no anti-cannibalism law.